In the early 1960s, visitors to the Turin Auto Show were treated to a remarkable sight. At the ISO booth, already known for its elegant Volta Coupe introduced in 1962, stood an extraordinarily attractive two-seater sports car with an aluminum body. Besides the ISO emblem, the car bore the model name Grifo A3/C. The letter C indicated Corsa, emphasizing the car's sporty character. What was astonishing was that the body was unpainted. The assembly of this stunning coupe was completed just the night before the show opened. This prototype was the result of intense work initiated by Giotto Bizzarini in 1961. Bizzarini skillfully combined the qualities of a talented engineer and a great designer. Early in his career, he worked for several years at Ferrari, where his crowning achievement was his involvement in the creation of the road racing supercar 250 GT. At the end of 1961, following a sort of uprising among some of the technical staff, several leading engineers, including Bizzarrini, racing manager Carlo Chiti, and engineer Giuseppe Bassanelli, left the company. Their time in Maranello had infected them with an incurable passion for racing. Chiti eventually settled in Wolfsburg, where he could pursue his sporting ambitions for many years. Bizzarini's career, however, was more varied. Putting professional racing on hold, he founded AutoStar, a company that designed cars and engines for other firms. One of AutoStar's first clients was Lamborghini, for which he developed a V12 engine and the Rivolta model. ISO tasked Bizzarini with improving its Gran Turismo car so that it could compete with leading British and German brands. Although it was never openly stated, the main competitor was, of course, Ferrari. To save time and resources, the new car project was based on a principle that had already been successfully applied by English and French designers, but was just beginning to gain traction in Italy: a combination of an inexpensive and powerful American V8 engine with a proven and reliable European chassis design. Bizzarini enthusiastically took on the task. He designed a chassis in the form of a platform welded to the body frame to create an unusually rigid semi-monocoque with increased resistance to torsional loads, using a 5.3-liter Chevrolet Corvette engine. The bodywork was entrusted to the Bertone studio, where a young and talented designer, Giorgetto Giugiaro, was working at the time. In 1962, exactly 1 year after work began, the new GT, known as ISO Grifo 300 or 340, depending on the engine's power, was completed. However, Bizzarini felt somewhat slighted, as he believed he did not receive enough recognition for the brilliantly executed order. As a form of compensation, he was allowed to develop a sports version of the GT. Bizzarini managed to convince ISO's head, Renzo Revolta, of the necessity of creating a racing version to enhance the brand's prestige. "The best advertisement is racing," he would repeat, pointing to Ferrari, which appeared in newspapers worldwide every Monday. Revolta seemed to agree with his argument, but at a crucial moment, he decided to play it safe and devised a complex arrangement. The essence of this arrangement was to minimize the company's losses in case of failure while maximizing profits if the new car succeeded. The contract, crafted with Jesuit cunning, established an unusual type of relationship between Bizzarini and ISO. It meant that Bizzarini would develop prototypes with parts supplied from the company's warehouses for free, but this complex agreement did not end there. Bizzarini was required to hand over the new chassis to Bertone, where it would be fitted with a two-seater coupe body. After that, the finished model was to be included in ISO's lineup under the name Grifo A3 Lusso. Revolta was to pay Bizzarini 3% of each sold unit, thus financing the racing department. The name Grifo held a hidden meaning, a nod to the mythical griffin, a winged creature with the head of an eagle and the body of a lion. According to legend, griffins were fierce enemies of horses, and it is well known that a horse is depicted on the Ferrari emblem. Thus, the prototype was born, shocking the auto show audience with its unpainted body. The body panels were crafted by the renowned Piero Drogo sport cars. The blueprints used by the bodyworkers were developed based on sketches by Bizzarrini himself. A scale model of the body underwent testing in the wind tunnel at the University of Pisa, achieving a drag coefficient of 0.30. The extraordinary beauty of the body is undoubtedly the main feature of the Bizzarrini 5300 GT Strada, as this car would later be called. The body was low. Its highest point was only 1,110 millimeters from the road surface. The elegance of its graceful lines and slightly bulging fenders highlighted the large alloy wheels with a central nut. Numerous ventilation openings added a touch of aggression to the car's sleek appearance. The car's speed was accentuated by the headlights, which were pushed as far forward as possible and covered with transparent fairings, as well as the modest size of the upper body compared to its overall length. However, one must not forget the engine, which significantly contributed to the ultra-high performance of the 5300 Strada. Even in its standard form, the General Motors engine with a displacement of 5,000.358 cubic centimeters produced 365 horsepower. But Bizzarrini found this insufficient. In the tuned version with a Weber carburetor instead of the standard Holley, the engine's power reached 405 horsepower. The front suspension was independent, with a wishbone spring design and hydraulic shock absorbers, while the rear was based on a de Dion layout with cylindrical springs and longitudinal rods. The brakes were disc brakes with power assist. In early 1964, a new company, Società Prototipi Bizzarrini, was registered, and production of the 5300 Strada began. The contract with ISO had expired, and thus the company was now called Bizzarrini. The model name Griffo was retained, and the cars were identified by engine displacement, 5300, Type GT, and purpose, Strada or Corsa. No more than a dozen examples of the sports version were produced, some of which, specially prepared for racing, featured smaller rear windows and additional ventilation cutouts in the rear pillars. In addition to the previously mentioned engine variants, some racing versions were equipped with independent rear suspension instead of the standard de Dion axle. Series production continued until 1969, when the onset of economic difficulties severely impacted the luxury car sector. A total of 42 units of the 5300 GT were produced. Today, this unique car is almost forgotten. It is worth noting that not all reputable foreign publications dedicated to automotive history even include a brief mention of it.